Good Sunday morning. Welcome to Inside Tennessee. I'm one of your moderators, John Becker. We'll get to the politics of the day. A lot to touch on with our panel. But first, a history lesson. You know this. This is our backyard, the Oak Ridge Reservation. And what went on here in World War II helped America win that war. We're going to talk about the history, but also the future, because this operation came at a cost. Let's show you what it looks like now. This campus spanning some 35,000 acres. That's about half the size of the city of Knoxville. And it is the largest Superfund site in America. So that takes billions to clean up. This morning, we have the man behind it. As you take a look and soak in what is the Oak Ridge campus, we are here and pleased to have Ken Rueter, who is the CEO of United Cleanup Oak Ridge, with us to explain the stakes here and what's ahead. You are in the post until March, but congratulations on the upcoming retirement.
Thank you very much, Sean. Appreciate it.
We'll get to our panel's questions as well. Susan Richardson Williams is a Republican. She's joining us now and runs her own PR firm.
Good morning, John.
Don Bosch runs his own law firm. He's a Democrat.
Good morning.
John North in the chair with me, my colleague here at WBIR. Ken, let's talk about the work here, 2011, rewind the clock, and the task at hand that took billions to clean up this site.
Yeah, so again, appreciate the opportunity to talk this morning. Essentially, United Cleanup Oak Ridge used to be called UCOR. Back in the 2011 timeframe, we were awarded a large federal contract, approximately worth about $3 billion, to come in and to clean up what most of the audience would know would be the K-25 site, which was the largest under roof buildings ever built in the history of the world. We came in around the 2011 timeframe, was awarded that contract by the Department of Energy, and moved into it fairly quickly. So by 2012, we were mobilized and focused on a really three-part vision or mission or strategy to go ahead and one, complete the cleanup or the demolition of the K-25 facility, which was essentially 1 mile around it, for those of you who are familiar with it. And I'll get back to its historical significance here in a minute. And then proceed through the remaining gaseous diffusion plant buildings, ultimately totaling 13 million square feet under roof. So that's 100 acres. It's the largest Superfund cleanup as it relates to buildings ever done in the world. And that would put us essentially in the 2016 timeframe. Then went on the second part of the vision or the strategy to complete the remaining buildings at the site, now called the East Tennessee Technology Park. Remove all those buildings, there were approximately 500 of them, and do that by 2020. And then to go on the final and third leg of the cleanup of the East Tennessee Technology Park, which would have been removing all the soils of concern. So these are soils that are contaminating or could contaminate groundwater, remediating all the soils. That's called remedial action work under Superfund, and essentially then return all those parcels back for economic reuse to East Tennesseans, or to the state of Tennessee.
And one of the greatest phrases that people like to say is on time, under budget. That happened.
Yes, absolutely. So the magnitude of the East Tennessee Technology Park cleanup, which is now referred to as the Heritage Center Industrial Park, was right at about $4.5 billion to complete. And well, actually, we were talking about it a little earlier. One of the most challenging things with reducing environmental liability or cleaning up large facilities is sooner is better than later, for two predominant reasons. One, you want to remove the hazard from human health and the environment. And second of all, the cost of carrying these buildings, so let's call it the inflationary cost of environmental cleanup, is approximately 50 cents on the dollar. So by completing the job 4 years early, we saved the American taxpayer approximately $500 million just in the time value of money, just the cost of money. And better yet, by completing it 4 years early, we positioned it for what we like to refer to now as clean up today for a nuclear tomorrow. And I'm sure we'll get into the discussion, but the nation's nuclear renaissance is now happening at the former East Tennessee Technology Park. now called Heritage Center, because of our ability to position the site for the largest federal land reuse initiative that's ever happened. We're one of the largest land redevelopers in the state of Tennessee as it sits right now. And I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more, but the nation's first nuclear innovation hub is now being built in the Oak Ridge corridor. So if you have much familiarity with the wonderful and amazing career of Senator Alexander, you're familiar with the Oak Ridge corridor. This is bringing his vision to reality for this country.
We're going to stop there because you set the table for our discussion. Don, Susan, and John will have questions. We're going to take a quick break on Inside Tennessee and back with those right after this. Ken Rueter is our guest, CEO of UCOR. John North.
Mr. Rueter, you mentioned at the opening that there's been progress ahead of time and ahead of budget maybe. Billions has been spent, but folks at home may not realize that many more billions must be spent. And I joked with you when you walked in our building, I said, I wonder if it'll get done in my lifetime. You said, I think so, but could you clarify for us when it probably will happen and why it's got to take so long?
Yeah, so we have the Oak Ridge Reservation is broken up into essentially 3 major site locations. So we've got the East Tennessee Technology Park, we talked about that. Then we have the Y-12 National Defense Complex, and then the Oak Ridge National Lab. And so it's natural as you finish one area, which we just talked about, that the East Tennessee Technology Park has done, to move then to the next ones. So because of the successes to the west at ETDP, we instituted something we call Go East, in which we moved all our cleanup and our crews and company to the east and began to work both at Oak Ridge National Lab and Y-12 in parallel, which is a bit unprecedented, but the performance and the scale of our ability to perform had us positioned well for that. Those 2 remaining cleanups are approximately $8 billion worth of work. The current federal baseline to complete is around 2050. But we are on track for 2043 to 2045. So yeah, we're gonna,
maybe your lifetime.
I was going to say,
maybe
may still
all
be
of our
alive.
lifetime.
The
So
3 of us might make it.
Yeah.
Susan will laugh at our funerals. So.
So we're looking good for that, and are actively, there's approximately 2,500 people actively working now at both those locations to do very similar cleanup.
So, Ken, we are a political show, and of course you have to deal a little bit in that world. Your UCOR and under your leadership have done a great job since 2011. A major project needed to be done, created an economic opportunity for our region that's beyond none. But I'm curious, you've survived a bunch of different political administrations, and they have different priorities and different funding, and that includes both legislatively and certainly in the White House. Who do you think has been the strongest at supporting UCOR's mission, and who's been the most challenging to try to work with and get things from?
So the most supportive has certainly been Congressman Flashman and Senator Alexander. I mean, from 2011 on, they have been advocates and studies of it, because if they don't understand it, they can't appropriate it. And so they have been just absolutely outstanding with regard to everything that they have done to support what we refer to in our partnership with them, which is to be investment worthy to the American taxpayer. Probably the most challenging area, which is predominantly just education. We saw very good appropriations when on the House side, the Energy and Water a subcommittee was led by Chairwoman Kaptur. That went extremely well. We did have to invest quite a bit of time getting her to a place where her and her team, her clerk, could make, let me say, informed decisions. But when we got there, I will give her a lot of credit. We got the second highest appropriation until obviously Chuck became chairman and began to lead the efforts there than we had ever had. So the challenge was really kind of bringing them up to speed. And something that I always tell our team and I remind our company, we are, as it relates to the work we do, we're agnostic.
Sure.
I mean, everybody can get behind environmental cleanup.
But unfortunately, the government is not, and they have to pay for you.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And that's why I asked the question.
Yeah. So it's really worked actually fairly well with regard to all that.
I just saw on your website y'all just finished Alpha 2 at Y12, which was one of the original Manhattan Project buildings. Are there more Manhattan projects, or is that it?
No, there's many more. So
really?
that was a
Y12?
Y12 and Oak Ridge National Lab. So there's a number of research reactors at Oak Ridge National Lab to clean up. There's a number of former lithium buildings that are called former mercury use buildings. That's the largest inventory at Y12. We're working on those, going through the series of steps we do to ultimately demolish the building and abate the hazard in it. And then there is one more Calutron building called Beta 1. That actually the crews that just completed Alpha 2 will move to and demolish that.
Then there was the mouse house. You had biohazards.
That's right. That was true. Yeah, the biology complex, infamous mouse house, which actually is going to be now home to the nation's next lithium processing facility.
Ken, we only have a few seconds left, but when you hear people talk about Oak Ridge, what do you want them to know about that site, its history, and what's ahead?
What I'd like to leave them with is the amazing call to service that East Tennesseans has made, starting from the Manhattan Project to win the Great War, to then win the Cold War, and then to mobilize again to complete the nation's largest environmental cleanup that's enabling the nation's nuclear renaissance right here in East Tennessee. The only place in the world, in my opinion, and I've worked in this business 40 years, to successfully close the nuclear life cycle and present itself and prepare itself to go on that journey again in support of what our nation needs is Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
Ken Rueter, we appreciate the perspective and the history lesson. Thanks so much, and best of luck in retirement.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We're back with some politics from these guys right after this. This former Tennessee football coach wants to be the next senator from the great state of Georgia. Do you recognize him? That is Derek Dooley, and he is making the pitch to Georgians to elect him. We're back with our panel, and Don, for our viewers who are not astute in the politics of Tennessee football, remind them what Derek Dooley is most famous for.
Oh, he had some epic speeches where he might blend some historical facts, trying to make a point. We joked that maybe it went so far as to claim the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor. That's a little bit of exaggeration, but Derek, flashy dresser, the orange
also
pants.
Orange pants,
yes.
You
can't
Fear
miss
the
orange
pants. Don't you remember that?
Fear the pants.
The pants.
Custom orange pants, but unfortunately didn't get the job done as a coach. Father, Vince Dooley, great coach for the University of Georgia. But I think my guy John Ossoff down in Georgia would love to see Derek Dooley as his opponent in the general election.
Derek Dooley running as a Republican.
Polling's looking good for Ossoff, is it not, right now? It's way early. But
Democrats are out polling right now, Republicans, but that's another discussion.
Well, I would say don't count Derek Dooley out, because the Dooley name, certainly his father and his mother, Barbara, is one of the most beloved women in the state of Georgia.
I like her most of all
Yeah,
of them.
she's smart and funny, and the Dooley name carries a lot of weight there.
Generationally, it does, but I bet a bunch of the 20, 30, and 40-year-olds don't know
Maybe
that much
not.
about it.
The
Maybe
1980 year doesn't matter to them.
No.
But if any,
Herschel Walker is gone.
Your advice, Susan, is to get your mom in front of the camera.
I absolutely would have her out there for me every day.
Well, let's bring it back to who is running in Knox County, and the list is out. And John, we'll get to some other counties as well, because there's an interesting race for mayor in Sevier County like we haven't seen in 50 years. But let's talk about this first. In Knox County, what stands out? You and Susan have the candidate.
We've got the sheets.
A lot of things stand out, actually. I mean, it's a fun race locally, statewide, and federally, for us, at least, for us nerds. But you've got really competitive races. Obviously, we've talked a little bit in the past about the sheriff's race. We've got 4 candidates for that. In the Republican primary, no Democrat has stepped forward yet. There's still a little bit of time, I think February 19. 3 Republicans running for Knox County mayor. Again, no Democrat that we know of yet. So there's going to be some very competitive races there. We're planning a February 25 Sheriff's Forum, I think, and we'll do a mayoral forum. It's going to be really interesting. I think Republicans really have to sort of sit down and think real hard about who they're going to vote for.
This is a changing of the guard, Susan, as you're looking at the list there. Pretty historic election in terms of what's next for Knox County.
We have almost all of these county county offices that are up for re-election this time, and interestingly, as usual, some are current office holders who are running for a different seat because they've had 8 years in the position they were in. I think one of the most interesting races will be for county trustee. Currently Justin Biggs, and we've had a lot of conversation about him this past year.
Winners and losers picks on a variety of ways.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of calls about that. Nick McBride is currently the Register of Deeds, is running against Justin, and that race is going to be really interesting. I think there's a general sessions judge race. It's going to be interesting too.
Andrea Klein race.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Andrea is going to be the quote incumbent as she was appointed by County Commission. And again, remember, County Commission, in a bit of a rebuke, did not appoint one of their own and Rhonda Lee to the bench. And I think that may have surprised some outsiders. It didn't surprise some of us that paid attention, but that could very well get to be an interesting race because I think Rhonda will get some money, get some funding, but so will Andrea Klein.
Don, as John pointed out, we don't see Democrats involved right now, and that's been a smack against the party in the county.
Three or four on here.
There are a few, but it's something I've been critical of, and we need to cultivate good candidates and really target some races. We've had a Democratic sheriff in the past, and Joe Fowler, and it's been a bit, but there are some races that we can win. I mean, there are no Democrats currently on any of the benches. The sheriff is a Republican. All of the fee office holders are Republican. We can target some of those offices and with good people that might have a shot. I would like to see, there's a couple of high-ranking people at KPD that would probably identify as Democrat, and they might be a really good person to run for sheriff.
I was going to say another race that I think will get very interesting is for county clerk. Richie Beeler has announced.
It got more interesting this past week.
It did. Richie Beeler had already announced, and John Whitehead, the former property assessor, right, is running, and then Rodney Lane. So there's 3 Republicans running in that race, and I didn't know John Whitehead had thrown his hat back in.
Just happened last week.
Yeah, but that race I think will get very interesting as well. So from now until May, it's going to be very interesting for all of us who follow this.
We're going to take a quick break and look beyond Knox County. Sevier County is going to make history in this election like they haven't in 50 years. We'll explain that after this short break. Back on this Sunday morning, talking politics with our panel, Susan Richardson Williams and Don Bosch. My colleague John North is here. And John, let's expand the view, as we mentioned, beyond Knox County and look at Sevier County, because that county is making history with who is not on the ballot.
Right. Sevier and Blount actually are going to be really fun. Sevier, Larry Waters, I think maybe the longest serving elected county official in the state of Tennessee, period. He started in the office as a county executive, if you remember that title, and then became county mayor 48 years, I think.
And he was 25 when he was first elected.
Yeah. That's an amazing record. And he announced last year, he said, you know what, it's time for me to do something else or hang with the kids and the grandkids. That's what I'm going to do. That frees up that office. We know of 2 Republicans who are going to be running for that seat. And then also you've got Ed Mitchell, who has actually been in office quite a long time down in Blount County. And he as well announced last summer that he would not be running again.
I think Sheriff of Blount County, Jimbo Barong, may have an opponent as well, or one's been rumored. So that race could get interesting.
And Barong's one of the longest serving.
He's been there a very long time.
Long time.
These communities are not term limited like Knox County was in the home rule counties, and that's why you see those very long terms in office in these
Union County is going to be interesting. It really will, seriously. I think it will be kind of fun for primary night, and then August when we have the general for county elections, and that's also the primary for state and federal. It's going to be a really interesting year, and I hope the cash registers ring on our TV sets too.
Probably will.
John making the pitch. Susan, what stands out to you looking beyond Knox
Well,
County?
if we're talking about August elections, the state reps and the state senators, and Dr. Briggs has an opponent this time, and Kent Morrell, I think he serves on the state executive committee, but he's from more of the right wing of our party. Most of the state reps in our area they don't have opponents. There are a couple that do, but by and large, they're going back scot-free at this point in time, without Democrats or Republican opponents. So they're going to have an easier time, and they can go campaign for whatever gubernatorial candidate they would like to support.
Do you make anything out of Elaine Davis having an opponent, a Republican opponent?
No, I'm not surprised about that at all.
That's
that
in the
district,
18th.
That district is close. It's been close every time.
That's a purplish district, and
It
Elaine
is.
is bright red, and I don't know much about her opponent, but Elaine's kind of a survivor. She manages to win races that I certainly have said that she might not win, and she does. So,
and her husband's running for sheriff.
her husband's one of the sheriff's candidates.
Both names are going to be out there this
And
summer.
I think the Michaela Barnett, Tim Burchett race, while Tim has always had a strangle lock on this district, it will be interesting to see if Tim's antics over the last 2 years, which have been frankly embarrassing to our district and our state, many of those, the public side of Tim, whether a dent gets put into his margin of victory. I think it'll be hard for a Democrat still to win that. I said it would be interesting to see if
Will
a
he
dent.
ever learn?
He
Yeah,
will
no,
never
I
learn.
didn't even suggest that someone might win from my side, but I'm curious to see whether Tim's margin will decrease.
It will be as large as it's always been.
Well, he is about as all in as you can get
He
in terms
is.
of supporting the current leadership in
He
the White
is.
House. He is all in.
New
All
chairman
them
of the
chips is
Doge
right
committee.
there.
Got the Doge committee that he's heading up.
Whatever
now.
that will do.
Tim always says every time I'm critical of him, he gains 2 points. So you're welcome, Tim.
Looking at the state in terms of the message from Governor Bill Lee, he's going to have the State of the State address here in the next few days. Susan, what does he need to articulate in order to not be a lame duck governor in the next
Hard
year
not
and
to
a
be
half?
a lame duck governor when you're in your final year. You know, your staff starts sending out their resumes and commissioners start to retire and move on. I don't know what we'll hear from Governor Lee. I think the budget is always it's tight this year, and
No
people
tengo
got
dinero.
It's always about the budget, and then we've seen a lot of immigration bills that are being introduced in the General Assembly. It'll be interesting to see if he talks about that, and if he's had connection with Stephen Miller at the White House too.
Not a popular topic these days. It may have lost some traction that it had just as recently as 2 or 3 weeks ago.
But it
with the
hadn't
Minneapolis.
changed the General Assembly's
Well, and
focus.
Miller congratulated Tennessee for
Right.
working with them.
It'll be interesting to see finally what comes out and what might pass of that whole package. I
think-
predict it will be nowhere near
Will Lee
the
talk
entirety.
at all about expanding vouchers?
He
has to.
probably will. He'll have to do that since Cameron, we've had Cameron Sexton, the speaker, on here, and that's one of his priorities as well. So I'm sure we'll hear about vouchers as well as immigration.
I need to make this point before we leave, that Inside Tennessee will be preempted by a lot of Olympics coverage in the coming weeks, but you can still get the perspective from Don and Susan and John on our WBIR Plus streaming app. If you don't have that, you should download it for free, because we will be doing Inside Tennessee episodes that do stream at the normal time that you might see Inside Tennessee on Sunday morning, 9:30. We will have Don and Susan offering their commentary and political takes throughout the Olympics. So again, you won't see this group on air, but you will see them right here or on a tablet of sorts. So please download that. And as always, we appreciate you watching Inside Tennessee. Again, we're back at our normal time, 9:30 on Sunday mornings in a couple of weeks. Enjoy the Olympics, and we will see you very soon down the trail.
Happy February.